Hi, welcome back to Vegan from Scratch. If you don't speak English, remember you can turn on your subtitles. I'm Nik, also known as Nik of Thyme, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm an urban gardener from the United States, and I'm so happy to be here today. In the US, we do eat a lot of Tex-Mex, and so coming to Mexico, I thought I would find some flavors that I liked. Growing up, we love the birds. In the United States, we eat a lot of Tex-Mex. And one of the dishes that I really liked growing up was enchiladas. The first time I asked my Mexican husband to make me enchiladas, I didn't get what I was expecting. And so today, I'm going to teach you, with very Mexican ingredients, how to make my version of enchilada bake, also known in Mexico as PASTEL AZTECA. I'm sure you've seen these if you've gone to any store here in Mexico, and if you look really closely in the United States, you can find them as well. Dried chilies. Dried chilies can be a little bit intimidating, but they're actually pretty easy to work with. Today, we're going to use a combination of guajillo, ancho, y pasilla. These ones are pasilla, and they're one of the sweetest ones. Dried chilies all have a different taste from their fresh, but all of their antioxidants and vitamins are preserved. Experiment with the different chilies to see which flavors you like, or even which colors. Today you're going to need tortillas, chile poblano or bell pepper, mushroom, corn, spinach, a red onion, and of course some vegan cheese. The first thing you're going to need is your red onion. I like red onions because they're higher in antioxidants and iron. You can of course use any onion you want. White and yellow taste good as well. First, remove the skins, composting your extra organic material. We're only going to use half of the onion today, and we're going to want it diced. Remember your knife safety. Only dice as much as you're easily able to hold. Try to get all of the pieces in about the same size. Now into the bowl. Next is your chile poblano or your bell pepper. We're going to slice it in a way that removes the seeds and leaves only the outside of the pepper. You're going to want to slice and dice it the same size that you did your onions. Start first by making long pieces, and then you can cut those across into cubes. All of that into your same bowl. Next is the spinach. I'm using some local spinach from my garden, but any type will do. You can add as little or as much to this dish as you please. I like to cut it pretty small, but any size will do. Now it's the corn. I like to work with smaller pieces of corn because it's easier to take off the cob. But be careful, it is hard to cut things in the round. Don't be afraid to ask for some help. It's easier to cut into the cob and down in smaller pieces instead of cutting the entire length of the cob. Watch that again. Into the cob and down, cutting half of the cob at a time. Flip it over and continue until you remove all of the pieces of corn and add them to your bowl. Next is the portobello, but you can use any mushroom that you prefer. We're going to use everything, including the stem. You're going to want to slice and dice it again, about the same size as your onions and peppers. Don't worry if it's a little bit bigger, but try not to make them too small. And again, everything into the bowl. I like portobellos because they give a good texture to the dish. Now it's time to mix. Add a big pinch of salt, and mix together all of the ingredients until they're well incorporated. Portobello mushrooms also add a good protein to your dish. Now it's time for the enchilada sauce, starting with our 4 or 5 dried chilies, garlic, white onion this time, vegetable broth, salt, pepper, cumin, oregano, and 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Now it's time for the garlic. It's going into the blender so it doesn't have to look pretty. Give it a good crush so that way the skins are easy to remove. Make sure you get all of the skins off before adding them to the blender. For this part of the recipe, we'll use white onion because the flavor is better for this sauce. We're only going to need half, and you can dice it pretty big. The blender will do the rest of the work. Now the fun part. Now it's time to de-seed the chiles. There's a lot of different techniques, but in a lot of cases you can pull out the stem and remove the chiles by hand. Be careful, these chiles are still spicy. Capsaicin does not dry. You may want to use gloves, or maybe you'll prefer to cut off the stem and either use scissors or your knife to cut down the chile and open it. Then, using the back of your knife blade, you can scrape out the chili seeds. This keeps your fingers from getting too spicy. All of the chiles have different heat levels, but most of the seeds do have a little bit of spice. If you like spicy food, you can put the chiles into your blender as well. Your sauce will be a little less smooth, but your sauce will still be delicious. Chiles are best cooked by soaking them in warm water for 20 minutes before you use them in recipes. Today we're going to save a little bit of time and chop them before putting them into the blender. So go ahead and stack up those chiles and give them a really good chop. First into lines, and then like everything else, into cubes. Try to get them as small as you can before we put them in the blender. Now that that's done, 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, 1/4 teaspoon of oregano ground, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 cups of vegetable broth, but you can also use water, and then we're going to blend it. Make sure that you're blending it completely to incorporate all of the ingredients. If you can still see pieces of the chili pepper, it's not blended enough. The color will start to change as you blend. It will take a few minutes to get everything completely smooth. The next step is to cook it. You're going to want to bring it to a boil and cook it for about 5 minutes. While you're cooking it, you'll see that the color is going to change from a light red to a much darker red. And the cornstarch is going to start giving it a thicker texture. It should still be a sauce though. However, one thing we do buy from the store is the cheese. It's time to grate up all that wonderful vegan cheese so we can start layering our pastel azteca. The first layer is a good amount of sauce, but don't use it all. We're going to want some for later. Make sure you cover the bottom of your pan completely. Next, you're going to start to add the tortillas. I found it was easier to break them in half and do the outside, and then later put full tortillas in the middle. The next layer is your filling, and you can use about half of what you have in the bowl. And if you like, you can add some beans. Now you're going to layer on a little bit of the cheese, and then continue again with the layers of tortillas. Remember, outside first, and then the middle. You can now put the rest of your filling and another layer of beans. And now it's time to use the rest of your salsa. Make sure you get it in all of the corners and across the whole top, so that way it doesn't dry out. And last but not least, a good layer of that vegan cheese on top. Now it's time to put it in the oven, 25 to 30 minutes until it's completely cooked. The best part about this recipe, you can use any kind of tortillas. It doesn't have to be fresh ones. You should use corn tortillas, but they can be a few days old because in this recipe, it'll get soft with all the salsa. When you're ready to serve, cut it like it's a cake in a big square and use a spatula to get it out of the pan. We like to serve it with a vegan cream and a little bit of fresh avocado, but it can also be eaten as is. Now it's time to try it. It was a little bit hot, so maybe give it a little time to cool off before you dig in. A disfrutar! Thank you everyone for joining me today making enchilada bake. In Spanish, that's called pastel azteca. I hope you subscribe to our channel Give us a like and share this video with all your friends and family. Now that you know how easy it is to make enchilada salsa, I hope you stop buying that store-bought stuff and share good food with all your friends and family every day. See you next time! This recipe is especially good for parties because you can make it ahead and you can make a lot of it. Just use a bigger container or multiple. Enjoy! Thank you so much. Hasta luego! Vegan from scratch. Should I call it pastel azteca or enchilada bake?